Will Patterson. He's the head of venture at Varus
Welcome,
Capital.
welcome, Will.
And not only is he the head of venture at Varus Capital, but he, according to his Twitter bio, is a aspiring K-pop singer-songwriter. So we need to talk about
that. Well, that I didn't know. Interesting.
Well, you need to read his Twitter bio, man.
Yeah, I definitely would. I usually talk to him direct, but that's good to know. We definitely need to test that out.
Thanks for having me. I'm here to talk K-pop and take names. So
let's go.
Let's go.
That's not true.
Going, man?
No, things are going super well. Things are going super well. I had some great time off over the holidays. Spent a little bit of time with family. Spent a lot of time on Twitter. But diving into 2023, staying super busy and just laying the foundation for a fantastic 2023.
Nice. Awesome, man. That's literally the vibe that we have here at Dexalot. Obviously 2022, while it started nice and cozy, it didn't go so well for most of the people out there. We are one of those teams, and you are one of those people that continue to build, regardless of the conditions, right? And we're looking forward to a very fruitful 2023. I think things are going to look a lot better this year than last year. I'm one of those people that believes the worst is at least behind us. Even if there is short-term pain here, it's not going to be as bad as last year. But welcome to the show. Thanks for coming, of course. Why don't we start with a little bit of your background, man? What brought you to where you are today? Obviously, you were at Ava Labs at one point. Give us the full story, man. Would love to hear it.
Yeah, no, again, thanks for having me. So my background specifically is actually in East Asian studies. If you hear a fire alarm behind me, it's because I live in New York City and I live next to a fire station. So my background's in East Asian studies. I went to university actually also in the Midwest. I have a background in German and then learned Chinese at university, studied finance and accounting outside of class, ended up getting a job in New York in investment banking. So in 2019, I moved from Shanghai to New York, started covering clean tech companies for a boutique investment bank. So I did a lot of M&A, some capital raises, working with some publicly listed companies, some private companies, middle market to large cap to even growth stage companies and battery storage. Did some deals there. So I have a lot of experience in TradFi. Did that for 2 years and change. Got another job in TradFi right before I moved to Germany for that job. Ended up exploring other opportunities in Web3. Found the job at Ava Labs, focused on gaming. And so knew I wanted to get out of TradFi and knew that's not what I wanted to do long term. And could have made a better decision. I mean, the team at Ava Labs was fantastic. Great leadership across the board. Learned an incredible amount, had a fantastic time. So happy to dive into my experience at Ava Labs because we did a lot in 2022. Like you said, it was a very it was an interesting year. Someone once said Drake and Future put out the song "Life Is Good" and nothing's been good since. 2022 also really manifested that. But we got a lot of work done. We got a lot of work done at Ava Labs, the gaming team specifically too. So can dive into that. Worked with a lot of projects on launching on Avalanche, getting VCs up to speed. Did a few a big enterprise deal as well towards the end with the gaming flavor with the chess chain announcement, and then recently made the Varus Capital switch. So happy to dive into any of that stuff. I left the K-pop bit out, but we can take it any which way, man. Happy to.
Wow. So just to get my head around, right? Like, so it started with language studies, became investment banking, then became Web3, now in the investment space. That's a fantastic journey, my friend. Well done. Quite honestly, you don't come across a lot of people who manage to be able to, operate in these relatively distinct spaces, right? Like, yes, of course, there's some overlap between, investment banking and VC and this and that, but that is one heck of a journey. I'm looking forward to how you apply all those different things into Varus Capital. But why don't you tell us a little bit about the gaming space? Obviously, that's something we're quite excited about here at Dexalot. We even have a game session every now and then where we play the games, particularly the games that are launching on Avalanche. We played Pulsar here. We've looked at Snail Trail here. We've looked at Elderune, right? We've looked at a good number of games out here. So tell us, what you've observed most and what you're most looking forward to next year, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, there. I think at this point, honestly, there could be college courses on Web3 gaming. We're still very, very early, but there's I mean, I have my own theories and happy to discuss those. The space is very much still in its infancy. I used to say we were at the bottom of the first inning, to use an American baseball, term. Maybe we're still at the top of the first inning, to be honest. I'm not sure where we are, but we're very, very early. The building blocks are being made. We're seeing the Venleys, the Stardusts, the sequence wallets, all these different wallet solutions, Web3 auths, etc. Where we're seeing people create ways to obfuscate the Web3 experience and make it a Web2 experience. That was a recurring theme. I would get on calls with many varying parties time and time again. They would say independently, we're solving for the Web2 experience, which is absolutely the right aim. That's still where we are. Most games today, I'll use Snail Trail as an example. Great builders. They're just shipping. They're sticking to the roadmap. They're just shipping. And, they didn't change their token emissions despite all the craziness in the world. And, the game, it's a fun, casual game. And they're still building. I bring that up as an example because you need a non-custodial wallet, right? And I think the next phase, in my line of thinking, at the pace that some of these Web3 native studios are building, I'll say Shrapnel, I'll say Gunzilla, for example, probably going to need a custodial wallet solution. If you are, using some massive distributor, or you're going to be on consoles, you're probably not going to have MetaMask on your PS5. I'm just, hypothesizing here. So you're going to need a custodial wallet.
I would hope so, man. Not just I hope so that there's no MetaMask stuff on my PS5.
Get my MetaMask off my PS5. Is that what you guys are saying? I should get that off. That's not the real MetaMask on the PS5.
Gotta get rid of it ASAP, bro.
That's Jimmy. That's some icicle level attack on your PS5. So you're probably gonna need a custodial wallet solution. But the next step after that, I mean, I'm not quite sure where we go, because what I imagine is these studios are not going to want to bear the risk of owning the keys to these wallets. Absolutely. So then maybe enters the age of smart contract wallets like Sequence, or maybe then we enter the age, this user-driven, demand for using their own non-custodial wallets. I think what's interesting and what we'll see play out is where on this spectrum of this thesis and how quickly we'll see users becoming more familiar with non-custodial wallets. I think it's very, very possible that having a mobile core wallet, for example, or a mobile MetaMask or mobile Coinbase, we'll plug all of them, becomes as common as having a phone number. I think that's very possible. That's the direction we're headed. I'm not sure how quickly we're going there. But at a high level, we're still seeing people create the ramps, the rails, or the infrastructure to solve for the Web2 experience. So,
absolutely. I mean, it's quite interesting. Like, if you look at it purely from a market perspective, this is a market that didn't exist, meaning it existed, but it was closed-in systems, right? You play World of Warcraft, you're a slave to Blizzard, or you play something else, you're basically creating value and allowing the company that produces that game to monetize your time themselves, right? I think the biggest shift here is Web3 actually opening that up to the people that are spending the time and having the ability to own the assets that they generate, or ability to own something in return for their time. But I've also observed a significant amount of pushback from the general gaming community, right? It's almost like crypto games and other kind of games are separate camps. Obviously, the custodial I'm not going to call it even custodial. The ability to play the games without knowing that the blockchain exists is one part of it. What other things do you think this sort of ecosystem needs to build for traditional gamers to come in droves? Like, what else is missing besides the ownership aspect?
Yeah. I think I have a clever response to this. I think what people need to build are enjoyable Web3 native games. So the way I look at it, and the generally how I just frame looking at these, types of more existential or philosophical questions like Web3 gaming, should it exist? Is there a point? I'll give you one example. Riot Games, I don't think has any interest today. If they're what is it, swimming pool Ari, or one of their like most famous skins, I don't see any reason they would make that an NFT, because people are going to buy that, they're going to be done playing with it, they'll sell it below the retail price. It just doesn't quite make any sense. Even if they have super high royalties, it doesn't quite make much sense. On the flip side, if they had Season 2 Championship Ribbon, extremely rare skin, and they want to collect royalties on that, still, it's a very, very slippery slope. I still don't think I see Riot Games doing something like that. However, what we will see on the other side of the gaming industry is if a competing MOBA comes to the gaming world and people have a lot of fun and they start to take market share, then Riot Games has to react. That's personally how I think about it. Until there are serious Web 2 experience style games on the market, I don't think a lot of these players have too much incentive to move, unless they're building these new Web3 native gaming projects with their own business models. But some of these big boys, I mean, it just doesn't make quite as much sense, in my view, to incorporate Web3 until there is very, very much user-centric demand for those things.
Right. It's kind of weird, right? Like, big boys, as you call them, don't have any incentive to build these types of games because they already make a killing from their closed-end system sort of games, right? Second, new projects that are popping up, they have a very hard time competing with the Activisions, the Riot Games, whoever is out there, because of capital reasons, right? Like, how do you build a game that is capable of competing with those big studio produced games while solving for all the Web3 challenges? And I think you hit it in the nail in your previous answer, right? The key thing is the infrastructure needs to shift out from being the responsibility of the team that's building the game to the people that actually build this infrastructure, and game development companies just need to build on top of, which brings us to Avalanche, right? Avalanche subnets, I think, is a perfect example of a piece of infrastructure that people should be able to pick up easily, relatively to other alternatives, and build on top of. Very cool, man. Very cool. So what is Varus? What's going on in Varus? Tell us. Give us a little bit about that.
Yeah. So I'll try and remember everything. Varus Capital, founded in the summer of 2018, founded by an American guy, Darius. He did super well. He and a few partners had run a real estate private equity fund. Still exists. He's no longer involved in the day-to-day whatsoever. But in the 2017 run up, there was LP interest from their existing real estate fund to pull out and move over to crypto. So that spawned his initial interest in cryptocurrencies. That interest became Varus Capital. For the last 4 years and change, there was very much more so an emphasis on the trading strategies. We have a full quant team, globally distributed, head of quant based in Switzerland, handful of engineers around, and a chunk of the team in Bangkok, Thailand. So until super recently, that's absolutely where the emphasis is. And today, that's still a bigger part of the business than the venture arm. But as they continue to see success, the firm is growing. We're branching out beyond Thailand, where a lot of our LPs are based. We're separating the quant strategies and VC. So recently, VC Fund 1 was formally launched. We're totally chain and vertical agnostic, although obviously, being Avalanche native, have a very, very clear understanding of where all of the tech advantages lie and why it makes a lot of sense for many projects to build here. And the interesting thing about Varus as a platform is that we have that quant arm 1, and 2, the headquarters in Thailand. So I'll dive into both of those pieces. Having had a presence in trading, we have very good relationships across pretty much every tier 1, tier 2, and 3 exchange. So we have a direct line to all the teams there, which is a great thing to be able to give to partners who are at a stage where they're looking at token listings. We have engineers for code review, so we like to be very hands-on and value add to the extent that projects want that support. And then, of course, my time at Ava Labs and figuring out chain deployment strategy, how to think about different chains, comparing VMs, technologies, getting the best support from your chain partners. We have a team of 4, 2 in New York, 2 in Bangkok, focused on venture. That's the quick rundown, I think.
I mean, that's very cool. Obviously, what we've observed in the last 6 to 8 months, I'm going to say, is a significant slowdown of VC capital. Even projects that are well established started having problems raising because most people, for lack of a better word, stopped, right? Like they decided to not deploy capital and wait until the storm is over, if you will. Is that changing from your perspective? Obviously, you guys are, you said vertical agnostic as well, which means you have quite a large mandate. Do you actually start to see other VCs dipping their toes back into, investing into good projects?
Yeah, I mean, from my perspective, things definitely never stopped. I mean, the faucet's always on for great builders. And even in my time at Ava Labs, I mean, maybe there was a very, very short period of time where people were just waiting to see what happened. I'm talking early November. Maybe people said, let's reschedule for a week from now or 2 weeks from now. I don't think people ever stopped funding great builders. If anything, people are doubling down on teams that they had conviction in, and it's definitely filtering out folks who, and I think this has been true, by the way, since probably last June or July. But I think the quality of projects that I even saw at Ava Labs coming through has only continued to increase. I think that happens naturally in a bear market because folks who maybe would have a better chance raising in the bull market are not having as much success in the bear market, and you're just obviously left with what rises to the top. So I haven't seen anyone specifically stop, but of course people will be more conservative in a bear market. Absolutely.
Definitely. If you wouldn't mind, can we go back to the gaming for just a quick second?
Oh yeah, whatever you want.
that's kind of my thing. Firestorm, Firestorm looks like he froze anyway. So he'll be back. But basically, so I'm kind of like the resident gamer on the team. And I totally hear what you're saying. I feel like when we had the Pulsar team on, one of the main things we talked about was the kind of architecture where it just kind of sits, the Web3 architecture sits under the Web2, and the Web2 users are using that architecture without even knowing that it's being built by the Web3 users, right?
Yep.
Someone said Firestorm looks like a man making good trades. So let's say someone who dabbles in crypto, someone who's kind of new in the game, but is a fan of gaming and wants to get into welcome back, Firestorm, wants to get into Web3 gaming. What do you say how do you direct someone who's a noob but wants to dip their toes into the Web3 gaming world? You know what I mean?
Yeah. So actually, this is many months ago at this point, but as someone who, I played Snail Trail, for example, since it was released. At a certain point, very early on, someone lent me a couple of Krabata crabs, and I just played around, in Krabata. And then at one point, I also loaded up a wallet with just like one AVAX and bridged to DFK chain and played around in DFK. Bridging, they've done a great job obfuscating that process going to the subnet.
Sure.
But I would still say it's sort of medium to advanced. I mean, to being completely honest, anything with the word DeFi in it, you need to be a little bit more crypto native to figure that out. But when I think about games like Snail Trail and maybe even Krabata, although you might need a friend to kind of onboard you with 3 crabs or something, I don't think it's that difficult to go to Coinbase, Gemini. I have a couple professors that I still keep in touch with. He logged on to Gemini or Coinbase, whatever it was. He can buy AVAX on his own. I mean, I just kind of told him, these are things that I'm interested in. Right. He can go figure that out on his own. And I have friends who can download, MetaMask, Phantom, core without any instructions and withdraw to it. So I think most averagely, people who have used like Robinhood, for example, they can get tokens into their wallet. There are fiat on-ramps on Core, for example. If you load up with half an AVAX, I mean, you can go to Snail Trail, buy a snail. You understand the process of like, you own this thing in your wallet, and you can enter free daily races. And so I like that example because they have missions that you can do for free multiple times per day. But on the flip side, we do have mobile games that have AVAX deployment. So there's Castle Crush, for example. It's a Web 2 game that already existed, and they kind of added Web 3 on top. So you have to link a wallet on their website. But then you go to a marketplace, you buy an NFT, you see it in the game. So I think even the early iterations of Web 3 gaming, we've already seen people do a pretty good job of making it somewhat simple. Although the best thing you can do is help your friends figure it out. I think that's kind of what happened very early on.
Yeah, I think
games, right?
I think the UX definitely improved. Like we did see a significant improvement from the beginning of actually maybe the end of 2021 all the way till end of 2022. But as you said, I think there is still many barriers. And this is true for every Web3 business, to be honest with you, not just games, algorithmic loan protocols, right? Like the interfaces still scare most of the people away. They don't understand a lot of the terms, same thing with exchanges, yada, yada, yada. And I think this is one of those things. It's like a slow burn, man. Even internet itself, right, took a certain number of years to become mainstream in certain countries. Then it's like that, exponential growth. And I think as you said it earlier, we're in the beginning of, top or bottom of the first inning in the end.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah, like what is your thesis on, so obviously Avalanche, right? We're all Avalanche friends here, if you will. We've been on Avalanche a long time. I've been in the Avalanche ecosystem a long time. But there's still a lot of alternative L1 technologies that are being produced. Like what is your view on, the next 2 years in the top 5, if you will? Obviously, my personal belief is that tech-wise, Avalanche is quite strong versus its peers. But there seems to be a lot of confusion and chaos there. What's your view?
Yeah. So first of all, I think what will be interesting to see is sort of the battle of different virtual machines. So the reason that like it's hard to get upset about Avalanche because it's VM agnostic. So when I tell people, I'm like, hey, how familiar are you with Avalanche? Oh, it's an EVM L1. I just go, yeah. No, I don't do that. I'm usually like, oh, something much more friendly. But subnets are virtual machine agnostic, right? And so anything, if you were to deploy a sovereign L1, your own validator set with some novel VM, the question should be asked, why make those infrastructure investments instead of launching as a subnet? So I think the question should also be asked of new rollups. Inevitably, we're going to see rollups on every chain with different virtual machines. And if they're going to have a token, the question should be asked, what does the token do? So I think my personal view, although admittedly very, very early in this thesis, is that when people look to launch, these new, let's call them ecosystems, if it's an L2, they might as well launch as their own app chain somewhere else. There are issues with centralized sequencers. If those become decentralized, it's almost like it's its own L1 on top of an L1, but now with slow finality. In other words, very high latency and bridge risk. So I think we're going to see people slowly warm up to the app chain thesis. Right now, Avalanche is extremely well positioned for that. Extremely well positioned. Avalanche Warp messaging also brand new. But in the next few years, maybe we will see other multi-network ecosystems come to light. I think that will be interesting. What else? Maybe I pause there. Actually.
No, I mean, like this is kind of what we here at Dexalot believe as well. Like, we obviously built our subnet. We just released a date for its release date, and I think there's only so many ecosystems and technologies out there that are flexible enough to potentially compete with Avalanche, and Avalanche has the only consensus mechanism that allows it to finalize transactions fast, right? Plus the customizability that you add on top. We fully agree that this is the place for, like you said, looking at the trade-off with respect to building your own, and then, or spinning up a subnet with the existing tooling. And the funny story is, like, the subnet tooling that even we as Dexalot used is still very early. Like, those things inevitably improve over time as more subnets are spun up, as more people use the technology.
Yep. I remembered one other thought. I mean, like, I'm inevitably, or certainly, I think there will be monolithic chains that exist for a very long time. The way I see it is, it's probably not, ETH, I don't think is going away anytime soon. People will continue to add rollups, L2s, L3s. I think ETH is going to be here for a very, very, very long time, if not forever. But that doesn't change finite block space. It doesn't change how, everything that goes along with that. Inevitably, either ETH will get more expensive or they'll add more and more layers. And the way I think about monolithic chains is versus a network of networks, right? Like either an Avalanche or a Cosmos, things of those nature. I just see them as different, ecosystems with different cultures. I almost think about you're living on the Upper West Side, in Manhattan, or you're living in Williamsburg. I mean, some people are just going to prefer to live in Williamsburg. Some people are going to prefer a brownstone on the Upper East Side. So I think it's fine. I mean, there are obviously advantages to launching as a subnet versus, let's say launching on some monolithic chain. But some people are going to prefer the culture on those chains no matter what. And so there will be multiple winners in the same vertical in different ecosystems. I think that's inevitable.
Definitely, man. We do have a question from the chat that I'd like to get to really quick. It looks like Crypto Kindergarten is asking, do you think there's potential for gaming companies to have Web3 incentives to build and improve upon the game, creating an environment to reward freelance creators, leveraging a large potential workforce?
I think the short answer is the what was that deck?
Whoa, that was a mistake.
Bring it back. I think the free market is pretty efficient. It's not perfect, of course. Some people have great ideas and never get funded, but the free market's pretty efficient. Shrapnel has a big emphasis on UGC, user-generated content. They are working on a game economy that rewards people building for Shrapnel. If Shrapnel, again, going back to my earlier example, if Shrapnel takes market share in FPS, like a meaningful market share, I think you'll see, Activision or whoever owns Call of Duty at this point respond.
Sure.
So that's how I think about things. I don't, anything more granular, it's, I feel like it's tough to predict the future. But if someone's losing money, I mean, it's like Tesla, Tesla's a lot of fanboys. I like to think about it a little bit more holistically. Tesla made an electric car. Electric cars did not really exist in the US or the world. Yes, the Prius, but electric cars did not really exist. Right. But because they were taking market share for everyone else, they had to respond. So they respond to user demand. They respond to wallets. So I think something similar happens. The big gaming companies will absolutely respond.
Yeah, I think the potential, just to answer the question, with my own terms, potential is absolutely there. I think the timing isn't now, though. Like, I think first we need to identify games that people truly want to play, and they're not playing because of play to earn. They're playing because they prefer to play, right? I think that's the first step. And to do that, there needs to be concentrated and well-capitalized effort in producing content that's just fun. Right? Or like game loops that are fun, and then opening it up to people to, play the game, I think.
I mean, that's the key. Kind of demystifying all the stigmas around crypto right now is one of the big things too, because
very true. Very true.
Like Web2 gamers, as a general rule, I mean, there's a spectrum of either they think crypto is totally cringe, or they're like, yeah, I could mess with this. You know what I mean? So I think that's a huge hurdle to get over. And once we can figure that out, I think we'll be in good shape. But
I
it's
couldn't
a
agree
branding
more.
thing.
Couldn't
Sorry, go
agree
ahead.
more. Couldn't agree more.
Thank you, man. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. But yeah, man. Will, we kind of sometimes when we're on the show, we like to go into tinfoil hat territory.
Okay, sure.
Are you down to give us your biggest crypto tinfoil hat theory? Are you down?
Yeah.
You can decline. You can decline. Like we
I've
can have
got some.
Firestorm give us another one of his. He's got
I've
a million
baked
of them.
salmon a couple times. I have some tin foil over there. Yeah, I'll give you a high level one. I have a couple of thoughts that I'll reserve for the DMs, but I'm still curious. What other, to use a more morbid euphemism, I'm still curious which other bodies sort of float up from this FTX meltdown or collapse.
Dude.
I
Yeah.
highly doubt.
Difficult to know.
We have seen the full impact unfold. So
I mean, we still have the DCG Genesis situation that's still unfolding. I think those guys know and understand how to slow down the process a little bit better than most of the people out there, and they're not an exchange, so they don't blow up as spectacularly. But that is another dominant piece to fall, which will impact inevitably a lot more other things. While I think there's going to be more bodies, to go with your example, that will float up, I think the time for how dramatic it was is past. Meaning, yes, it's going to be other people who have impact or potentially, failures. I don't think people are going to care as much anymore, because the reason why it became so spectacular was because of the amount of leverage we had in the system, right? Like, everybody was getting liquidated right and left. And if you look at liquidation data now, on-chain or off-chain from the centralized exchanges that provide it, it's significantly different landscape out there today, right? Like certain market makers disappeared. I think people, at least for the moment, are not going to take as much risk as they were, taking before. And I think maybe we need another full cycle of stimulus for people to forget. Obviously, we all have short-term memories, but I think even if there are more failures, I think things have slowed down with respect to how bad it can get, in my opinion.
Sorry, I forgot what you just said. That was a joke. Will, would you come back to the show and talk with us some more? We'd love to have you again. This was I feel like we've only been talking for like a couple minutes, and we've been talking for like almost an hour now.
Yeah, I mean, there's so much to there's so much to discuss, and I'd love to come back and talk about whatever you want or give my take. Yeah.
Definitely, man.
I do.
Let's go. Thank you, man. Much appreciated.
Yeah, dude. And can I yeah, I got the thing. What about this one though? But no, I'm just kidding. Will, we talked a little bit during the sound check about some music to close the show. I mean, we always get a song request from every guest. I know you're in the K. I know you're an aspiring. Are we playing some Will Patterson music today? I mean, it does say you're an aspiring K-pop singer.
That does exist. We're not going to do that today. Also, the K-pop thing is a joke. We'll discuss that another time.
Okay. We'll do a K-pop specific session, man. I think it warrants. We want to see talent.
I would love to. The song I had in mind was "Nothing Changed" by Quavo and Takeoff. Dude. I just want to assure my brothers and sisters in the Avalanche community, because you're like 90% of my followers. I'm moving to a totally chain agnostic role, but nothing's changed. I still understand the tech at a pretty low level. So nothing's changed. We're still homies, although I have a much broader purview of what I'm exploring and researching in the market.
Well, I am a former rap radio DJ, and I was thrilled that you made a Drake and Future reference on the show, and now we get to play some Migos. So I am with it, man. Thank you for dropping rap references. You're speaking my language over here.
Yeah, whatever you want, man. I don't know. East Side Indianapolis, super. It's
Freddie Gibbs.
What's up?
Freddie Gibbs.
Freddie Gibbs. Not a personal friend of mine, but.
Well, I know he was in Indianapolis a lot. I mean, that's what I'm saying. So anyways, not a Freddie Gibbs fan, noted, but you are a Quavo and Takeoff fan. So I got you covered there.
Thanks, guys. Really appreciate you having me. Let's do it again soon. Let's do it again soon.
Let's do it, man. Thanks for coming.
Thanks for
Peace.
coming, man. Take care.